Hello students. Today we are going to study an excerpt from the book The Diary of a Young Girl. Let us talk about the background of the diary before we go into the text. The diarist is Anneliese Mary Frank, known more popularly as Anne Frank, who was born on 12th June 1929 in Germany. During World War II, she and her Jewish family migrated to Holland in Amsterdam to escape Nazi persecution. The National Socialist German Workers' Party, led by Adolf Hitler, which was then in power in Germany, was called the Nazi Party. Soon, Nazi occupation extended to Netherlands, and the Franks had to go into hiding in her father Otto Frank's office building. Anne Frank recorded the day-to-day events of her life in the diary from 12th June 1942 to 1st of August 1944. Instead of writing diary or journal entries, she chose to write personal letters to an imaginary friend whom she named Kitty. After the war, the only survivor of the family, Otto Frank, retrieved his daughter's diary. He edited and published it to give the world a first-hand account of suffering under German occupation. Since then, the Diary of a Young Girl has been translated from the original Dutch into several languages and adapted into films, documentaries, and television series. We shall now begin with the text. The excerpt given in this chapter covers the two letters Anne wrote in her diary, dated 20th June 1942 and 21st June 1942. The first letter contains Anne's reflections on writing in a diary for the first time. She understands that the trivial accounts of a schoolgirl's life would not interest anyone. So, she decides to write the diary solely for herself, going by the principle that paper has more patience than people. She names her diary Kitty. We understand from the letter that she's a mature girl who is not satisfied with the meaningless conversations she has with her school friends or with the attention she gets from her host of admirers. Rather, she aspires to have a confidant with whom she can have deep and intimate conversations. These are the major facts that we learn about Anne's life from the first letter. Her father, Otto Frank, was 36 and her mother, Edith Hollander Frank, was 25 when they married. Her sister Margot was born to her parents in 1926 in Frankfurt, Germany. Anne was born on 12 June 1929 in Frankfurt and lived there till she was 4. Her father immigrated to Holland in 1933 and her mother joined him in September of the same year. Anne and Margot lived in Aachen, Germany with their grandmother. Margot joined their parents in Holland in December 1933, while Anne followed in February the next year. Anne's grandmother fell ill in 1941 and passed away in January 1942. She ends the first letter by announcing the death of her grandmother in 1941. She mentions that she and her family are still doing well, which implies that she is aware of the dangerous times they are living in. The second letter has a lighter tone and details the everyday life of an ordinary schoolgirl. Even though she describes trivial incidents, we can tell by her writing that she is much more intelligent than her peers. She is not bothered about passing or failing her class like the others. She has more faith in herself and her girlfriends. The only subject she isn't confident about is mathematics. Next, she goes on to write about the 3 essays Mr. Keesing, the maths teacher, assigns to her as punishment for talking too much in class. The first essay is titled A Chatterbox. Instead of submitting a dull assignment, Anne wishes to do it justice. She provided a convincing argument to support the necessity of talking, explaining that talking comes naturally to her as she inherits the trait from her mother. The teacher laughs at her ingenuity, but when this punishment fails to transform her habits, he assigns Anne a second essay for the next day titled An Incorrigible Chatterbox. Again, Anne uses her creativity and turns in an essay that keeps Mr. Keesing satisfied for the next 2 lessons. Finally, He asks her to write an essay titled "Quack, Quack, Quack," said Mistress Chatterbox, much to the amusement of the class. Anne realizes that Mr. Keesing is turning her into a laughingstock with these assignments and good-humouredly decides to get even with him. She has exhausted her arguments on chatterboxes and pledges to come up with a strictly original idea. Her friend Jenny, who is skilled at poetry, helps her write the whole assignment in verse. In her poem, the father duck bites his 3 ducklings to death because they quack too much. Anne consciously takes a mischievous dig at her teacher through the piece by satirizing him. She is relieved when he takes the joke in good humour and delightedly reads out her assignment to the class. Anne manages to win his heart and is exempted from future punishments. She also secures her freedom to talk through all her maths lessons thanks to her creativity. The Diary of a Young Girl contains numerous letters which span a period of 2 years. Do you think the selection of the 2 letters in this chapter is justified? You can answer this question by thinking of the content of the 2 letters and their intentions. The first letter introduces us to Anne's thoughts, her family background, and the history of their migration. The second letter aims to stress how the Jews turned into victims overnight by the rise of Nazism, led normal everyday lives, and had ordinary aspirations. With that, we come to the end of this video. We hope you find this video helpful in your exam preparations.